In the previous movie, we talked about how you can use keywords and folders to organize your footage. Another way that you can categorize your footage is through ratings, where you can attach both positive and negative labels. So that's what I'm going to take a look at here. So I'm going to go into B-roll and then back into my beauty shots. And if I wanted to go through and find the shots that I know that I definitely want to use and attach a favorite label to them, I would just select it and then press F for favorite. And when I do that, I get a green line appear within the clip. And then if I go up to my Smart Collections up here, which is within every library, and I click on favorites, you can see that it gets deposited there as well. So I'm going to go back to Beauty Shots because I want to talk about favoriting not only entire clips, but also portions of clips. So let's take a look here. I have kind of a pan up to the sun and then back down for the Camp Grayling sign. So let's say that I want to do the pan down. So I'm going to just drag a range. So I'll click and drag in that section right there. And then again, I'll press F for favorite. And you can see that I favorited just that portion. Now, if I go up to favorites in my Smart Collection, you can see that just that portion of the shot has been added. I'm going to come to my pre-trip keyword collection because I want to show you how you might use favorites to disinclude something that you know you don't want to use in your film. So here I have kind of a long shot of a lot of these introductions at the very beginning of the trip. And I actually have myself right here, and I don't want to put myself in the film. So I'm going to favorite everything before that. Another way besides clicking and dragging is to set in and out points. So I can go to the beginning and press I, and then I can go to the point where I want to end and press O. And now I've marked that section, and I'll press F, and I'm going to skip over myself, and we'll go here and in, and how about out right there? And I'll favorite that. Now, another place that you can show your favorited clips if you don't want to leave the folder hierarchy and the keyword hierarchy is to change this menu right here. So I'm going to go up to B-roll. So I'm looking at all of my B-roll, and I'm going to go to all clips and choose favorites. So now I'm just looking at my favorited clips. And you can also cross-section this with keyword collections. So if I just want to look at the favorited beauty shots, I can click on beauty shots, and there we are. And then here's my pre-trip favorites. So lots of ways that you can look at this depending on what exactly you're clicking. Now, this is all well and good, but the way I actually use this most often is to mark the sections of sound bites that I'd like to use. So I'm going to go into interviews, and I'm going to go into Sean. And the reason I don't see any clips here is because I'm still filtering on favorites. So you need to go back to all clips, and believe me, that happens all the time. And now I want to identify the portion of Sean's interview that I want to favorite the sound bites for. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. I'm just going to press Command plus plus several times so we can hone in here. And I've already showed you how you can play with spacebar. You press it once to play.
When you think about it.
And again to stop. I also just briefly want to introduce another very useful navigation method called JKL right now, and we'll expand on this in Chapter 3. But basically, JKL is a multi-direction play. I can press L to go forward.
If I were in business,
I can press K to pause, and I can press J to go back. And it actually gets a lot more powerful than that, but those are the basics. And that will allow me to really take a look at this interview and identify my favorites. So I've actually already listened to it and have an idea of where I want these sound bites to be. So I'm going to go forward with L.
When you think about it, if I were in business,
that's the beginning of where I want my sound bite to be. So I'm going to press I to mark an in, and I'll go forward.
If I were in business, most of the people that are going to be on this mission, I couldn't get a phone call to. These are very successful men and women that are established in business, very busy lives. I couldn't get a 45-minute interview with them. I'm going to have a 4-day interview with this team.
All right, and that's the end of where I want my soundbite to be. And I'll press O, and I will press F for favorite. And I have another section downstream here that I would also like to rate. So I'll go forward with L.
Side by side, as we're in difficult situations, facing adversity, facing the elements, the environment, and you can bluff your fellow.
and I just went backwards with J there to get to the beginning of my soundbite. I'll press I for in.
You can bluff your way through a 45-minute interview. Anybody can. You can't hide who you are for 4 days. So they're going to know the real me and really what you get and what you're going to get with a veteran. And a veteran.
And I just used a little JKL there to get to the end of my soundbite, and I'll press O to mark my out and press F for favorites. So now when I take a look at my favorites, here are my Sean interviews, and I'll zoom back out, Shift Z. Now, honestly, when I'm working in Final Cut, I do take considerable time to go through all of my interviews and favorite all the best sound bites so I can easily find them later. Now, I can also reject clips or portions of clips. So I'm going to go back into my B-roll, and I'm going to go into driving, and I'll press Shift-Z to fit everything in there. So I'm just looking at one thumbnail at a time. And I'm looking for this mud splash. And if you can't find it, you can just search in splash, and there it is. So I love this, and I'm definitely going to use it. But when the splash is done, I see this guy taking my picture, and I don't want that part. We want to reject that. So instead of favoriting the part that we like, we can come to the part that we don't want. About right here, I think, is the safe ending. And I'll mark an in here, and the rest of it I want to reject. So instead of typing F for favorite, I'm simply going to press the delete key on the keyboard. And instead of a green line, I get a red line. And I'm still seeing this portion of the clip, but if I go up to my filter and choose hide rejected, notice that it's just gone. So I have my shot, and then I no longer have the end of the clip that I don't want and can't use. So this can be very handy for cleaning up your browser and eliminating a lot of unusable footage, like before a director calls action, or as we saw here, some problematic part of the action that we just don't need to clutter our browser. If I go back to all clips, I do just want to mention I can also unrate this portion of the clip by pressing U for unrate. But I am going to reject it and then hide rejected for now. By the way, if you ever forget any of these keyboard shortcuts, you can go to Mark, and here's Favorite, Reject, and Unrate. And let's see, if I go back into this menu, we've taken a look at all clips, Hide Rejected, and Favorites, but there are a couple of others that you may want to use. Rejected simply shows you everything that you have rejected. I don't use that too often. No ratings or keywords shows you all of the clips that you have not rated or assigned a keyword to. So that can be useful to identify any uncategorized footage so that you can categorize it appropriately. And then unused is actually pretty terrific. I'm going to load a sequence. I did not provide you one in the exercise files, but I'm just going to load one right now, and you can just take a look. I'm going to load my montage and go back up into my B-roll. Now, I have a lot of shots here in this sequence, and they all basically come from my B-roll. If you take a look at these little orange lines, it shows you the portions of each of these shots that I used within the loaded project. So all of these little bits appear in the sequence. If you don't see these orange lines, you need to go to View, Browser, and Used Media Ranges. So with this selected, you get your little orange lines indicating what portions of each of these clips was used. Now, you can also use this filter to show you everything else. So anything that's unused is going to appear in the browser. And this is on a clip-by-clip basis. So you can see here that the very first part of this clip is in unused, but then I used something here, and here's the last part of that clip. So every frame that was not used in this sequence appears here within my browser. And that can be really useful when I need to identify shots that I haven't used in my sequence because I need to keep filling it out. So for right now, I'll go back to all clips, and I'll go back to my assets and load my blank timeline and sort of clean everything up here. And there we go. So as you can see, adding metadata, particularly rating your clips, allows you to really hone in on exactly what materials you want to work with and don't want to work with. I really do recommend spending that time up front doing this type of organization because it really does help out later when you're deep in the creative process and you need to quickly access your best shots.